So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiancé MK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing the Season 3 tell-all of The Other Way. In this last episode, everyone on stage tries to keep a secret from Sumit's family. Steven tries to explain why he's always talking to other girls. Kenny's kids still have thoughts about his potential new baby. Evelyn sees Corey talk about Jenny. People are more or less doubtful about Victor's intentions, and Binny is finally in America living on a K-1 visa. Since this is the last episode of the season, we'll close out with our power rankings for the main cast. If you like what you hear, please leave us a 5-star rating and subscribe. And if you watch Love After Lockup, you should listen to our other podcast, Love After Lockup MK. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you today?
I'm not doing too bad. Not doing too bad. We're getting that closer, counting the days down till winter break. But
yes,
but we're also counting I was also counting the days down to the season was over, and it's done now.
I was really shocked about that. I was really surprised to see that this was the last. I was definitely expecting a 2-part tell-all. It's kind of been the standard for the shows for a long time. And I was actually pretty pleased that it was only 1 part. I liked it all kind of summed up. It didn't feel like it dragged out.
Right.
We didn't have to see the preview coming up like 100 times.
Oh, yeah.
To see that freaking Steven wanted a threesome. We actually got to see that in this episode. And I feel like it was a good balance. There were definitely couples where it's like, oh, no new news or, no big deal. But it was kind of balanced with the other stuff that, was a little bit more juicy, I guess.
It was a little more juicy, and it wasn't as, dragged out as usually. It's like, you're right.
Yes.
There's usually, 3 minutes of coming up before every commercial, and it's always the same things. And then they kind of do it, and they get to each couple, and usually there's massive amounts of recap, massive amounts of, well, let's see this scene again, right? And there was some of that, but there wasn't as much as there usually is. And then we didn't have anybody. There was some juicy stuff in it, but we didn't have anybody who was Angela style, throwing a temper tantrum, storming out and showing her tits at everybody, it wasn't as fakey as it usually is.
Right. Although what did seem a little fakey was freaking Steven interjecting. It's like, you are clearly the most hated person on this tell-all, and you should not be making any side comment, trying to point any fingers or try to roast anyone. You are in no position for that.
No, he was. And it was just every time he did it, it was just like, oh God, no.
I know. It was so cringy.
So why don't we just start there with Steven, since we're talking about him already. And I said it's Steven and Alina, but it was mostly Steven. So Steven is in the studio, and, he tells us at the beginning that his relationship is going fine, but cryptically that trust is still an issue. He's also concerned that he knows he got a pretty bad edit, and everyone's going to be roasting him the whole time. And this is backstage beforehand. As the tell-all starts, he doesn't really seem to be trying to keep a low profile, because the first thing he says is well, Evelyn, that's the most modest thing I've seen you in. What? Oh, jeez.
Don't comment on someone's modesty.
I know.
You
it's
of
so
all
bad.
people.
Of all people. Yeah. So Sean starts the thing off asking all the couples their feelings about the season. Steven says he's the worst person in the room, and Alina agrees, and so does pretty much everyone else. Since she says that nothing has changed even after he deleted his Facebook. The other cast members kind of half-jokingly ask, are you still talking to girls? And at first he tries to get Sean to ask somebody else questions.
Then nice try, idiot.
Then he asks Alina in Russian if he should say anything. So he keeps hesitating and, going back and forth, looking for a way out of this before he says, yes, he actually has been talking to other women. Then things escalate very quickly. Apparently there were 9 women that were sending him naked pictures and stuff, which not only did he respond to, but also sent back pictures of himself. But he's quick to correct that the pictures that he sent were just face pictures, although they did come with bad, crude sex jokes. attached to them.
And his gross long tongue for some reason.
Yeah, I didn't think he would use the gross long tongue to say he was bad at going down on women. I thought he would have implied that he was good at it.
It's so disgusting. Oh, I didn't want to see that. I did not want to see his stupid long tongue. I wanted to throw up pretty much through that whole thing.
The whole thing. So Alina says she knows all about it because, like, maybe not all of them, but at least some of these women were just thirst traps who immediately snitched to Alina.
Yeah.
So at this point, Kenny butts in to say that they actually, he and Armando actually FaceTimed with the two of them before the show started to kind of give them like a, hey, here's what's going to happen. Here's what to look out for. And he specifically said, you're going to get boobs. He's like, I got boobs. So Steven seems to be, I don't know, he kind of goes on this weird tangent of justifying himself. He seems to be going with the I'm controlled by my penis excuse. And his twisted logic kind of brings him to the conclusion that apparently the solution to not having him talk to other women is a threesome somehow.
God.
They go into talking about threesomes for a while because Evelyn makes a joke about Mormon polygamy. So then the other two people who are raised Mormon, who, you know, Corey, and I didn't know this, but Armando too.
Yeah.
Says that, you know, whatever your sexual desires are, that it's a hypocritical thing to be acting like this at the same time you're really pushing Alina to get baptized and follow the church's teachings when you're not even doing it himself. So then at that point, that's the point at which Steven compared himself to Nelson Mandela.
Ew. Why?
It's like, as Nelson Mandela said, it's like, no, Steven, you stop.
Oh my God.
So anyway, they show us then like an extra clip that we've never seen before of Steven talking to his ex Vanessa before he left for Turkey. And in this clip, he does not look any better. And the conversation ends with his ex saying, please don't ever talk to me again. So, of course, Vanessa's in the studio. So they bring her on, and she says she's there for Alina, because they go back into the background of him and Vanessa's relationship. They got together when she was looking for spiritual guidance, but they only dated for a few months because while they were dating, he like traipsed off to Russia and banged 3 girls.
Oh my God.
So Vanessa says that her advice to Alina is get a divorce as quickly as you possibly can. That he is not going to change. If he has changed, he's changed for the worst. So Ari butts in and agrees with this and says and then even Steven tries to get a swipe in on her, and that doesn't go over very well.
Nope.
And she more or less tells him that he's full of shit. But he says he's going to see a therapist to get help now. So Vanessa begs Alina to try to leave the guy, but Alina tells us and them and everyone that she's already made up her mind. She's going to give him a second chance. So backstage, there's some more talk with Ari, who tells him, maybe you're not ready for a relationship. And if you feel like you want to like fuck around, then you should go fuck around and be upfront about it and not like drag Alina into it. All right. So, I mean, it's not even a second chance, right? How many chances is Alina giving him? He's going to give him.
I don't know. It's yeah. And I feel like she's one of those people that always says one more chance. And then it's like the chances just keep on coming.
Yes.
And so it's just like, you know, the boy who cried wolf, like no one actually believes you're going to leave them. And so now your threats mean nothing, and they're going to continue doing whatever the hell they want, because it was just like the bombs kept going off. Like, how in the world are you messaging other people? How in the world are you proposing a threesome? How in the world are you cheating with your Mormon ex-girlfriend by sleeping with 3 randos? Like, you know, It's like, I even see, you know, religious people kind of justifying their premarital sex by saying, well, I was in a relationship with them. He's not even trying to do that.
No,
he's just
not.
Like, whatever.
He's just in full, I have urges and, you know, I can't, I'm in control. He is totally in the, I have an uncontrollable penis. That's basically what his excuse for everything. Because like the other thing too is he goes into that and there's like some missing details here, right? He says he started talking to these 9 women. Yeah. Who, you know, were dropped into his DMs or whatever after he and Alina had a big fight. And so I was curious, was that fight about the threesome? Did they have a big fight because he's like really pushing for this threesome? And if she feels like when she says he can't, I'm not doing that, which is totally within her rights. I mean, it's totally within his rights to want a threesome too. That's okay. But like, and then he was like, well, and that's when he goes and like starts, getting the boob pics out. Like, is that what's going on?
Well, okay, so let's go back to your comment about it's perfectly within his right to like want a threesome. Like, yes and no. Like, there is no right or wrong when it comes to what you want, but if you have committed to a monogamous relationship, that is not something you can expect. You have chosen a monogamous relationship, which does not include threesomes unless the other person is going to agree to it, and you cannot force the other person to agree to it because they're in the right.
Yeah, oh, no, don't get me wrong. He doesn't have a right to a threesome. He has a right to like suggest that can be something they might do. Like after that point, it's up to her to yes, no, maybe, under the right circumstances. But so like he said, he's allowed to want what he wants, but we don't always get what we want, right? I want a nice house and I don't have one, right? And it's like, okay, but that doesn't mean I'm allowed to want it, but I'm not allowed to go sit in somebody else's house because I want their house. Right. And same kind of thing. Like he's allowed to, express his desire for it, but he's not allowed to like push for it or agitate for it or try to get her to do it when she doesn't want to do it. Like those are the things where it becomes off limits.
Right. Everything about this situation very much reminds me of Colt, Colt and Larissa. It's like totally using this show fame to really, get in with like this like online flirting, the sexting, like doing all of that. I mean, the only real difference is that Colt actually sent out his micropene to other people, and thankfully we do not have that with Steven. Right. But it's just like, I feel like he's playing the same game.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. He's married, doing the marriage thing, but the reality is that he just is using, and even like kind of same excuse, like Colt said, like, oh, I'm like a sex addict. I just have lots of urges. I'm like, have really big sexual energy. Like Steven's saying the exact freaking thing.
Yeah. Yeah. And that excuse just drives me up a freaking wall because there are a lot of people who have big sexual energy that aren't fucking creeps, right? It's not you can have big sexual energy and, still maintain healthy relationships and not, go around sleeping with everybody. Especially, this is the detail that I wish we knew, because he went back to Russia and, banged three women, right? Russia's where he did his mission trip.
Oh,
and this was a few years ago. I'm not LDS, I'm not a Mormon, but I imagine screwing people on your mission trip or people that you met on your mission trip.
That's like insta hell. Like you do that, you're like, okay, good luck, dude. You're like insta going to hell. Yeah, I really appreciate that Armando and Corey were putting him in this place because I 100% agree with them. And this is something that we've talked about, with other Mormons that we've seen, specifically Andrea on Love After Lockup. Yeah. Is just, be religious, fine, but don't try to act like you are trying to represent this holier than thou, trying to, he's trying to evangelize through himself being on the show, right? He's trying to be a witness to like, his religion. And I just feel like if you're going to take that on, you have to be in a place where you're, cognizant of your image and how that looks, because as someone who isn't part of that religion, that is super hypocritical. And I know he kind of gets on Corey by saying like, well, Corey, you had premarital sex, blah, blah, blah. Corey's not trying to convert people. Corey's not trying to even advertise that he's Mormon.
It seemed like both Corey and Armando were more or less like, I didn't I couldn't go with the church's teachings. I couldn't follow the church's teachings. So I'm not really part of the church anymore. You're the one who's saying he's still part of the church and still doing this stuff and still trying to evangelize and convert people while completely just ignoring all the church's teachings on everything, which is that's what's hypocritical about it.
Right. And I appreciate that they kind of said, you know, like, we don't meet the standards of the church. So we're not going to like publicly associate ourselves with the church, which I think is like 100% like how it should be. You know, it's fine if Stephen wants to live his life of what Mormons would consider sin, right? It's fine. But don't try to like make yourself a representation and like the shining example of what a Mormon boy should be. It's like, no, you're not.
I mean, he's just though, like, I mean, it was little things like the way he goes, you know, he said his Nelson Mandela quote, which is like, I'm just a sinner trying to be better. And it's like, are you though? You're not trying to be better.
I don't think he's
You're
trying to be better.
You're just as bad as you
all.
ever were. Like, and like, and then he goes to, you know, Ari, and she said something. He was like, it was one little mistake. She was like, it was 9 people. She was like, yeah, but it was just a few days. He was like, a few days? That's not one mistake anymore. That's a continuous decision to do something.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's just awful.
So speaking of the 9 women, like, it bothers me that there are people out there that do things like this, right? Like that basically are trying to be thirst traps. Like,
oh, 100%.
To turn around and snitch on him, it's like, I don't really understand, you know, it's like to be in the middle of all that drama. I kind of feel like that's what it is. The motivation is to just be in the middle of all that drama, to be like, oh yeah, I caused this. I made that.
Yeah. So when it's on the show and they're breaking up and there's things on the tell-all, they can just be like, that was me. Ha ha ha. That was me. That's what it's all about. Sure.
Yeah, and I just don't really understand it. And I just feel like, I don't know. I'm not saying that they're to blame, because my take on this is that Stephen would pull something equally as terrible, whether or not it's this specific, you know, kind of situation.
Oh yeah. If there were 9 women, if 5 of them were thirst traps and 4 of them were really into his, you know, freaky tongue and childish Sesame Street waving. He's a freaking Muppet. His Muppet waving.
Oh gosh.
Like, then he would still talk to those 4 women. Whether it was 4 or 9 is not really completely relevant here.
Right. Yeah. And it's just also so terrible how he tries to like put it on them. You know, like he is trying to blame them. Like, oh, well, I didn't send any naked pictures. They're the ones who sent me a naked picture. I didn't ask for that. You know, I may have been flirty and suggestive, but they're the ones who sent me naked pictures. It's just like, oh, you're so gross.
Yeah. And which social media was this on? Because I thought he shut it down. Like, how did they get his phone number? Did they get his email? Like, how is he getting these pictures?
I have no idea. Maybe email. I don't know. But let's talk about Vanessa for a minute. Like, my heart really felt for Vanessa, because it seemed that her emotions were incredibly real. You know, she, first of all, did not start off like in the clip that they showed. Didn't seem like she was all like really into being his friend, and didn't seem to be very like didn't end well. She didn't seem to have much respect for him at all.
No.
Understandably so, given how it ended up.
Right. I mean, yeah, I do feel bad for her, because I feel like for her, as opposed to Alina, it really got pulled out from under her. It was like all of a sudden it was just like, wait, what? You did what? Whereas Alina's kind of had little things that he just doesn't give up. And it's like, you should have known for a long time.
Yeah,
this is the way it's going. But yeah, and it's weird that and that's the other weird, creepy, bad, gross thing about Stephen, is he wants to keep her around.
Yeah, because he was like, you know, trying to meet up with her, and she said, "Oh, well, that's just, you know, inappropriate." That's what she said, and like, yeah, I agree with her.
Yeah, well, he's sending her. Oh, like I'm sure he sent, and it's one of those things where I wish I saw the actual thing, because I think Stephen is relatively good at sounding, if you don't know him and you're not well with the situation, sounding like it's kind of innocent. And but you, in the other side of the situation, knowing him and knowing what he's doing, is like, nope, I know what you're doing. Like, it's gross. Like, I'm sure he just sent her a picture of like looking good, or ooh, yay, like heart eyes or something, like at something. And she's just like, okay, that's you trying to start the process of ending up having sex with me again. Like, I know what that is. I know you well. Whereas there's like, he just tries to pawn it off as, I was just being friendly. I was complimenting someone.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I hate this guy so much.
Yeah.
All right. Let's go ahead and move on. Let's move on to another couple that maybe we didn't hear so much about, because I know that Steve and Alina, we heard a lot about them.
Yeah, a lot.
And that was Victor and Ellie. So Victor is there in person, and he's never been to New York, and he claims he has never watched an episode of this show, so he just doesn't know what to expect. Victor is still waiting for his visa, but he's just visiting right now. They're having a difficult time since they can't really move back to Providencia, and so they're doing that whole back and forth in between, the major island, I forget what the name of that is, and Providencia.
San Andreas.
Yes, San Andreas. Hiromi, Ellie's friend, is there to talk about her reservations about the relationship. Hiromi thinks that Ellie is just ignoring the signs. Victor asks, who's never cheated? Because he doesn't think it's a big deal, and the signs for what,
cheated.
Whatever.
Well.
As Kenny and Sumit raise their hands.
Sumit, though?
Yes,
Sumit?
Exactly. Yeah, my thought exactly. I was like, I'm pretty sure you got married to someone else, so I think that's cheating on someone. I just don't know who you would consider it cheating on.
Maybe he didn't cheat. I don't know. Yeah, but somebody was getting cheated on in that scenario.
Right,
yes.
right. So Ellie says that she trusts him, but right now she's just worried about his anger issue. Victor is seeing a therapist, and he's working on these issues. He seems to be triggered by Ellie's reluctance to give money. And then it kind of comes out that he says he feels guilty about not being able to contribute. We find out that Ellie has given Victor $5,000, and other than that, he doesn't really have access to her money, like no credit cards or anything like that. So, they're kind of talking about working on things, and, it's a work in progress. And then Hiromi says she doubts that this will last because Ellie, just seems to always be crying whenever she talks to her about the Victor situation.
Yeah.
All right. So that was really pretty much their segment.
Yeah.
Do you think that this couple is going to stay together, or do you think they're going to break up?
I think they're going to break up. Anytime somebody is like, the anger issues, once that enters into it, that's usually a really, really bad sign as to where things are going. And it's just like, there's one thing my definite prediction from them is we are never going to see them again. They are not going to come back. They're not going to be on this show. Like, I feel like they only had them on this tell-all as a matter of course. It was like, I guess we got to talk about them too. They're here.
Yeah, there wasn't a whole lot with them at all. And definitely no new news other than, I don't know, I can maybe see them being on this show like 90 Day Fiancé style if they end up getting the visa. Because I do think there is something to like, there is some kind of storyline I feel like they can drag out about, like wanting to have kids, because it's clear Victor wants to have kids and she's kind of like, I don't know if I can. Like, is this really even a smart idea? And then just the money disparage thing. So, or disparity.
And I guess it was like, I feel like the show itself wasn't terribly interested in them.
Right. And I would say that. You would think that there would be more to this couple because, you're like, oh, one of them's a cheater, the friends all hate him. But yeah, I think their drama was primarily like the whole destruction of his home and the hurricane. Right. And so I definitely think that took over. So it definitely made it a different kind of drama. Right. And I don't know, it just felt like it made everything else seem so insignificant to them that it was just kind of like,
Right,
who cares?
exactly.
He cheated. We're just trying to live.
You're sending him money, huh? Oh, like it doesn't seem much when it's like, yes, his home was destroyed in a hurricane, like his entire town. So it seems like, of course I sent him money. Like, so it doesn't make it. I just really wish in a segment that was the most interesting part to me, and was like, he was like, whatever, people cheat. I'm not the first person to cheat. Who hasn't cheated? And they only showed us the two people. I want to see everybody's reaction to that.
Yeah, I know,
hands, no hands. I want to see it.
Yeah.
Well, especially because that was, especially the ones that we know did cheat. Because there were a few people on that stage that we knew cheated. Yeah. Right? Like, and not in the least, like we know Sumit raised her hand. We heard about it. We'll get to it later. Like Ari, Corey, who else? Well, Steven should raise his hand.
No, right.
Right? That one to me was like the most interesting thing they did. And they brought Hiromi on, who was like, I thought she was kind of nasty.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
well, she don't like the guy.
She doesn't like the guy. And I thought on the show, when she was edited on the show, the episode, she kind of got I'm just really concerned. I'm leery. And this time she was like, I think he, stopped just short of saying, I think he's a piece of trash. And we'll see her back here soon. Like,
all right.
But all right. So moving on, I'm going to go to Kenny and Armando. So Kenny comes in with his daughter, I think. He walks in, but he seems to be one of the only people that has actually watched and paid attention to the show. And I say that because he responded when Victor was like, I haven't watched any episodes of this show. And Kenny was like, well, is Ellie going to be here? And things like that. So we finally get to them. We get, Armando bringing Hannah on and her, striking a pose and blowing a kiss to the camera because that's Hannah. Anyway, Kenny's in the States because Cassidy is due any day now. So he wants to be there for that. And he also talks the challenges about blending the two families in his two homes. So Armando is concerned that, when he gets here in the States and with Cassidy when she has her baby, it's going to feel more of a pull for him to come back to the U.S. And Kenny starts crying. He says Armando isn't wrong, but there's no way he'd go back because Armando is the best thing that ever happened to him. Blah, blah, blah. Romantic, like actual love for each other. But anyway, then they bring on pretty much everybody all at once. All four of Kenny's kids, Armando's sister and mother, and they're all from various locations. And Cassidy is definitely like ready to pop. So they give us the flashback scenes of Armando Sr. at the wedding. And that's actually the first time Armando sees that scene where he was like, everything was perfect and we have to accept it and things like that. So this kind of flashes back on Sumit crying because his parents are not quite as accepting from him. So they do need to bring some drama on. So they do move on to the adoption baby thing. So this actually is the first time that Debbie and Virginia, Armando's sister and mother, have heard about this, and they're totally on board. Yay, babies. More babies is good. But Virginia is definitely on the side of, I want there to be a new baby and not adoption. Because as Armando explains, there's a whole cultural thing between the blood children, blah, blah, blah. And of course, Kenny's kids feel differently. Cassidy thinks it would be a little weird if her grandkid was older than your kid. And Hannah just says she just doesn't like the thought of it. She's not opposed to another child, but she's stuck on him starting over. And like, if he has a new baby, he'll be way too involved in this baby to care about them. I'm not exactly sure why she thinks that he wouldn't be just as involved with the kid he adopted. That's not made clear, but I don't know. Anyway, Bryson takes the opposite stance as the rest of his siblings. He's just like, this isn't about us. I want him to be happy, and if that's what he wants to do, I'm going to support him. And then they kind of are leaving there, and Evelyn then we see Evelyn, of all people, get out of her lane to kind of diffuse the situation and say that, well, whatever happens in 20 years and that kid's grown, Kenny's going to look exactly the same. So we're kind of left, we're digging for drama with them with this baby thing, right?
Yeah.
And I don't know. It seems like, I don't know if there's a good resolution to it.
I mean, I think it's real, but at the same time, I feel like Armando kind of has to understand that this is, I don't know, a divisive kind of question, right? Or divisive decision. And I do think it's kind of ridiculous that Kenny's family seems so opposed to it. It's not their life, It's like, I get that that's part of it, but who cares if your half-brother, half-sister is younger than your children? Like, who cares? Like, they said that. They're like...
I'll give you that. It is weird.
Right.
But it's not like... It's just like, here's a weird thing about our family. Like, it doesn't seem like it's like, oh, the scandal. My goodness. How could we ever show our faces in Tampa again?
Right. But I also feel like Armando should have kind of expected that a little bit too. Like, Armando... He knows that Kenny's older, so it's not necessarily something on Kenny's mind when Kenny's children are Armando's age.
Right. Yeah, it just seems like something that, you have to accept, and both of them seem like that's okay. They're both willing to compromise and sacrifice to an extent. It's just a matter of where they're gonna land on it, because it does seem like something that I would just assume as a person, if I was, marrying someone who is approaching 60, 65, something like that, I would just assume that, like, yeah, kids is off the table.
Right. Yeah.
It's just a sacrifice for being with them.
Yeah. They're just not a drama-filled couple.
This is not the first
fine.
person approaching 60 that the other partner has been like, kids? We've seen that in a lot of...
Oh, gosh. Yes. If we think about Michael and Angela.
Yeah. And even Jenny and Sumit. Like, he's like, well,
Jenny
what about
Sumit,
kids? Like, what?
Ellie and Victor. And Ellie isn't even that much older,
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think it's a little bit different, too, because they're definitely going the in vitro route. And so it's,
Sure. Well, and yes, and because there's not, with Kenny and Armando, there's not going to be that physical limitation of,
right,
I can't have kids. Like, his stuff works just fine. Like, it'll be fine. But yeah, I mean, I just think this was another one where I feel like they were there, and I'm glad they were there, because I feel like this is one of the few cases where somebody stepped out of their lane quite a lot, and it was okay. And because it was Kenny. And it was like, he had comments for pretty much everybody else. Like, he had times when he stepped in, but it was like, every time he stepped in, it was like, that's right, Kenny. You were right. Steven is an asshole, isn't he?
Oh my gosh. Yeah, he really is. Yeah. So, I mean, they're definitely the couple that I think, we have plenty of great things to say about. So, I mean,
right.
They are kind of digging for drama a little bit. And I wouldn't even say their drama is like necessarily theirs, because the conflict really has to do with the disagreement with the kids.
Yes.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the overall kind of low simmering drama, is Armando being worried that one day Kenny's going to decide, no, my kids matter more, and I'm leaving.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Okay. So speaking of drama, a couple that had a lot more drama was Ari and Binyam. So Ari and Binyam are both there in person, and as Evelyn points out, Ari is looking hot in her little maroon dress. We find out pretty quickly that Ari ended up going with Binyam to Ethiopia for the visa interview, and they got it. So he is now living in the U.S. When asked about the status of their relationship, Binyam says things are good. Ari thinks that the relationship is stronger now that Binyam has seen her life in the U.S. Leandro, Ari's ex, then makes an in-studio appearance. We find out that Ari and Leandro were still married when she met Biniyam and got pregnant, which we had kind of speculated that, in the timeline. Mm-hmm. We find out that Ari and Leandro were, Ari recounts the call she made to Leandro to tell him that she was pregnant. They had talked for hours, and Biniyam had no idea. Everyone agrees that it's not right to talk to their ex about, your current relationship. Leandro thinks that Biniyam has insecurities, which is why it's an issue, but he also understands where Biniyam is coming from. He says he will back off if Ari asks him to, but only if Ari asks him. Mimi and Wish, Biniyam's sisters, then come out. We're told that Wish wanted to stay at the house and told Ari that other women were staying at the house in frustration when Ari told her no. Wish and Ari seem to disagree about what was said exactly. Mimi says that she believes the nanny was the one giving Ari bad advice to leave Biniyam, but Ari defends the nanny, saying that she was the reason why she didn't give up on the relationship. They start arguing when Ari insists that Biniyam tell his sisters that Biniyam loves the nanny. Ari calls the sisters jealous and says that they've never wanted their relationship to work, and the sisters say that Ari tries to keep the family away from Biniyam. Ari then tells them that they are pathetic and she never wants to talk to them again. Mimi is just sitting there, but Wish walks off. It ends up that the nanny was gossiping and telling other people about their relationship problems. Ari says offset that Wish is the only one saying negative things about Biniyam, even though she says she supports the relationship for Avi's sake. Biniyam says that this is a girl's problem. Ari doesn't want to talk in front of the sisters, so Mimi and Wish are excused from the call. Biniyam says that his sisters are trying to protect him, so he will try to talk to them to try to smooth things over. Biniyam insists that they're all family, but Ari says it doesn't matter, and it's pretty clear that they don't have a desire to talk to each other again. All right. It seemed to escalate really quickly. And
Yeah.
I was like very confused how they're just kind of talking about the nanny. And then all of a sudden they're so mad that they never want to talk to each other again. So why do you think that Ari is so pissed at the sisters?
I don't know. I mean, I do know. I don't know what happened to that argument that they had on stage because about halfway through, I'm like, I don't understand what's going on anymore. I don't know what people are yelling about what. It's just everybody's just yelling nonsense now.
Yeah.
But I think the root of it is, and I don't think she's wrong, they've been trying to break them up the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I really do think, I really am kind of on the page of, you know, when it was like, oh, everybody was texting, you know, about, oh, he's cheating on you. There's all these girls over at the house, blah, blah, blah. I think that was them. And I think that was them trying to break him up, which is weird. I mean, I guess there's still one major flaw in that plan or hole in that conspiracy theory. And that's, would they want to break him up while Ari was in the US with the baby? Didn't they want the baby to be in Ethiopia?
Right. That seems like weird because, you know, they want Avi to be around. And so if Biniyam and Ari aren't together, then why would Avi be around? So it just seems like a weird, you know, like the perspective of the plot that just doesn't make sense.
Yes. I mean, unless they're kind of talking crap about Avi being around, and what they really want is Binny to be around, and they also want Binny to not date any more American women. Is to be like, let's break up another one, and then he'll figure it out and date somebody in Ethiopia.
Yeah, I don't know about that. Okay, so what did you think of Leandro? Like, just Leandro, like, saying that he's not going to back off. And what they mean by back off, they just mean, like, them not having the close relationship where they talk on the phone for hours, you know, about the current relationship, which, I don't know, seems like a conflict of interest in a way.
It does, and I mean, I get that it's important. Okay, so there's two steps of it, and then one of them was, it seemed like some people were on there saying, well, nobody should know anything about your relationship outside your relationship, which I think is just bullshit.
Healthy. Yeah,
that's not good, right? Everyone needs someone to
has a sounding board or something, like, to normalize stuff
and to even kind of work through what you're thinking and to say things out loud that, like, you wouldn't want said to your significant other if it's just like a stop along the way of getting to where you really feel, right?
Yeah.
And so 100%. And it's like, and I was, you know, sitting with my girlfriend watching it, and I was like, I hope you talk to other people about a relationship. It's not me. And she's like, oh yeah, I do, definitely. I was like, okay. And so that part seemed crap to me. Now, should that person be your ex-husband?
Yeah, probably not.
That's a different story.
Yeah,
that's a different story. I don't even know if it's ulterior motives. I don't think it's necessary. I don't think he's trying to win her back. But it just, there's too much complexity for that to be helpful or useful, like, to you, right?
And then you don't know how your relationships will evolve. Like, even though you may feel that things are platonic now, you know, will they always be in the future? Like, you can't say that. You can't predict the future, right? So it just seems like by you kind of telling everything to your ex, you're giving them ammunition for later if they decide they want to battle it out for you.
Right. But I also do believe, and that's kind of the other one too, I was on the side of, that's Ari's responsibility and Ari's call. It's not Leandro's responsibility to be like, well, I'm not going to talk to you because you're married and you have a husband. And I'm going to back off. Like, that's, he has, I think he's okay being there exactly as much as she wants him to be there.
Yeah. Yeah, but I also do think that she needs to be respectful of her relationship and
yes, totally.
Definitely make that decision to kind of let it go for now.
Yeah, and they can I think it
doesn't mean that they can't be friends, but I definitely feel like talking about her relationship with Biniyam is not a good choice.
That's a I wouldn't say it's like, it's not helpful, and it doesn't. I guess is where I would put it. It's like over the line to something. I don't feel like it's a betrayal to Biniyam in any way. I just don't think it's a healthy place to have that particular relationship.
Right.
With her and Leandro.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of healthy places to have relationships and where they shouldn't be, that's getting us to Jenny and Sumit. So Jenny and Sumit are both are joining the tell-all via camera. So they said that things have been going well since the wedding, since, now Jenny can't get deported. So Sean gets straight into things and asks if his parents know that they are married. He says no, and the plan is for him to tell them today. So, again, not wasting any time, let's turn on the Zoom. Let's get Anil and Sadhna here, along with Amit and Shri, his brother and sister-in-law. So first they kind of show and talk about the scenes where Sadhna said that she accepted Jenny and she gave her a hug, but then they go to Jenny and she's like, yeah, that didn't last very long.
Oh, God.
It's like she's been trying to get kicked out of India and she's been encouraging Sumit to leave me and come live at their house. So Sean kind of is feeling stuff out. So we know that they don't know that they're already married. And everybody on stage is like pretending they don't know either. Everybody just kind of like keeping it quiet. So Amit says, Amit says that it's wrong for them to get married against the parents. And then, Kenny butts in and says, all this resistance, that was it, the thing too, is like all this resistance, 10 years, all the stuff they've been through. He's been married, dramatic pause, to someone else. All of it's just cruel. So Sean asks Anil how would he respond if they like said they were going to get married, then it doesn't matter what you think. And Anil's like, and Anil's perspective seems to be, why do you need to get married? You live together. You're banging all the time. Like, what else do you need? I don't understand. So Kenny throws it back, and he kind of throws it to Sumit's brother and says, well, what if they told you couldn't get married? And he just like pretty much no hesitation in front of his wife is like, I wouldn't marry her then. Nope. Shri doesn't really know how to react to that because it's not something she had ever considered. It's one of those things where it's just like, well, yeah, that wouldn't have happened. So why would I think about it?
Right.
So then it comes the big moment. They turn it over to Sumit and they're like, Sumit, do you have anything else you want to say to your parents? And he chickens out. Even after Sean tries to get him, are you sure that's all? So after the other family quits the show, Jenny says something. What did she say? Oh, that was an ordeal or something. And Sean was like, they're still on microphone. She was like, I don't care. Anyway, Sean points out that like you told everybody on camera here, so they're definitely gonna find out when this airs. So, and they're also gonna find out that everybody on stage knew before they did. So after the show, Sumit sheds that what he changed his mind about is he felt like it was something they deserved to talk about in person, face to face. So, guess question: is that bullshit? Did he decide that they better heard it face to face, or did he just chicken out?
He just chickened out. I mean, okay, maybe I would have believed it if it was someone else, right?
Okay.
But not freaking Sumit. He's like a serial liar. And he also does not like being in positions where, he's going to get in trouble. He does not like that. So he will lie just to not get in trouble. And so definitely that was what was going on here. He just didn't want to get in trouble. I think his best bet would have to done it in this context because you weren't physically in the same place. You know that they're going to be freaking mad when they find out. So at least you could have hung up and given them space to like revisit it later in person, possibly. I think that would have been a better strategy. I think also having everyone there to kind of support you would have been maybe to make it easier either on you or Jenny or, the situation.
Who was it? Was it Sean that said, you better just tell him and hang up the phone?
Yeah. I mean, she's not wrong. I don't think that's like you hang up the phone and never talk to them again. I don't think that's it, but that's what I'm saying, like a follow-up. You have to let them react to it on their own. Like right. No, and I agree with that. So yeah, I think it was a missed opportunity. He really should have done it then. And just his cowardice is coming out again. Like,
yeah. But and I think it's funny because at this point, because they're married now, Jenny is like, whatever, that's your problem. Like, I
know. I kind of like that. And I think it really does go to show how insecure she felt because the situation was like unstable.
Yes.
And now she just seems so much more relaxed. And it's like, oh, I feel that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then she can't get kicked out of the country. And that was like, Sadhna was like, she was trying to get me deported. And she was like, little did she know, she can't do that.
Yeah, I know, right? Yeah, too funny. Yeah, so, I mean, same old stuff, different context with them, right?
Great, basically, yep.
Yeah. I kind of hope that's the last we'll kind of hear about their story, you know? Because now, at this point, it would just be dragging out. They're clearly not having kids, you know?
Yes,
so it's really
I don't know. Yeah, I don't know what else you have except for that dramatic one episode moment when he tells his parents, like...
Yeah. Right. And I also think, like, the parents being very anti-Jenny doesn't seem all that weird to me. I know Jenny was just like, well, you know, that didn't last long. It's like, yeah, but it was really unexpected that all of a sudden she turns around and is becoming like a supportive and approval.
Yeah, we said it was a chess move and it didn't work. Like, so we went back to where they were before, right?
Yeah, it's like that approval wasn't real. So it's kind of like, yeah, that's why it went back, because it was, you know, someone's not going to change their mind or change their mindset that quickly and have it stick. It's going to be like a work in progress. But they decided, okay, well, whatever, we're giving up that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's move on to our last couple, Corey and Evelyn. Things are not good with Corey and Evelyn, because according to Evelyn, when they got married, Corey was supposed to come clean about everything. And I think she meant married like after the wedding. But she's still finding out more things, and she's worried about this tell-all and any more surprise revelations.
Yeah.
Leslie and Lipsy, her sisters, and Matt and Taylor, Corey's brother and sister-in-law, join the conversation. Leslie and Lipsy say that Corey deserved to eat the bowl balls that they tricked him into eating earlier in the season because he needs to be a man. Matt doesn't really defend Corey and says that, actually, that was pretty funny. The sisters say that they don't respect Corey because they think he's a liar and he just isn't a man. Matt sees Corey as being trapped, and he just doesn't really like Evelyn. Taylor admits that Evelyn just didn't like her when Evelyn lived in Washington with them. Evelyn says that she noticed that, you know, her and Taylor only really talked when their parents were present. So she didn't really think that, you know, she had a real relationship with them. It's pretty clear that Taylor and Matt don't like Evelyn. Mm-hmm. When asked if he regrets not going to the wedding, Matt says that he feels bad, but he doesn't regret it. Leslie and Lipsy then say that they care, and if he cared too, then he would have been there. This kind of sets off Matt, like he just like went from 0 to 60 really quickly, as he becomes defensive with the kind of boils down to the "you don't know me" argument. Corey points out that no one in his family has ever visited him, so he just doesn't feel supported. Steven decides to make a dumb joke about how Corey isn't alone because he has Jenny, which then leads into a recap of Corey and Jenny's relationship and meeting. I know. Steven, why are you injecting yourself into this? Like,
it was a terrible idea. Like,
yeah, just dumb. Yeah, so Evelyn is so pissed as she's watching this recap and tells Corey not to touch her. Evelyn gets visibly upset when they play back the interview where Corey says that he can't answer if he still has feelings for Jenny. Evelyn is close to tears and says how Corey swore over his dead father that he didn't have feelings for her. Corey tries to apologize again. Matt even says that he needs to try and make things right. Evelyn says she just doesn't trust him, and if there's no trust, there's just nothing. Sean asks Steven what he thinks about being on a break. And he finally admits that he's an idiot and he's not the one to comment on this. Evelyn thinks that their relationship is just now toxic. She admits that she keeps giving into him because she's just so used to being with him and him being there, because it's been a long time. I think 9 years. Mm-hmm. She believes that they just need to hire a therapist, not to help them, get back together and fix things, but to help disentangle their lives. All right, so this is... I feel like every season we kind of see it like it's goes good and we end up on kind of a high note, the engagement,
right.
getting married. And it's like, and then we get to the tell-all and then it's a shit show again.
Yes.
So do you think this is headed for a breakup for good, or is this they're just gonna continue this cycle?
I think this is a cycle. This is a cycle couple. They're just going to be in and out and on and up and up and down forever. Like, I don't think they ever are
makes
done with
me
each other.
sad because, you know, the first season that we saw Evelyn was not my favorite. In fact, I think I recall Evelyn being towards the bottom of our power rankings, which we will be doing very shortly.
Right.
You know, and I really think that I've got a different perspective of her this season. That there's really, she does come off as kind of a tough bitch, you know, but I think there's like real emotions and real reasons behind why she has kind of this like tough exterior. And, you know, it makes me kind of sad because I have seen her as like kind of this tough bitch. And so it's like for her to let Corey kind of treat her this way and to not be the one to be like, no, I'm not, this is not what I want. And to like actually cut it off. Like it kind of surprises me a little bit that she doesn't kind of have the strength to do that.
Yeah. I mean, it's definitely, because I definitely feel he like maximizes the pain when he does something wrong. Yeah. Right. And that in a weird way, I think keeps her more attached because the way he maximizes it isn't like a huge blow where she's just like, that's it. I'm done. I'm actually gone. It's the dribs and drabs, right? It's finding out something else and then finding out something else and then finding out something else. That's like literally the most painful way to find out anything, right? When they did something wrong. And and she was right. She's going to this show being like, I know there's something they have on film that I don't know. I know there is, right? And I'm going to go out. I don't know what it is I'm going to find because I know he's a liar. Because he is a liar. And he pulls off. I think it kind of took me at least a long time to figure out he was not just that dumb. He's lying. Like, yeah, he kind of came across as what an idiot. Why did he think that? It was like, oh, now I'm like, oh no, he's not an idiot. He's a liar.
Yeah, I kind of feel like that's why he comes off as kind of bumbly and like, meh. Yeah, because he's lying. You know, it's like you do kind of take it to mean like, oh, he just seems kind of dumb.
Yes,
or a little slow. But right, I don't think he's trying to figure out his lies. Right, because he's, you know, not so good at lying, but yeah.
Yeah, and so it just, I don't know. And I thought it was funny how there was a little kind of moment where like, I feel like Evelyn and Taylor got to finally connect because they were both like, because, you know, Matt was like, you know, oh, this was Evelyn. She was controlling you and she's the one nobody in the family likes her. And then like, I don't know, a little bit later, Corey was like, well, I don't know. I feel like ever since Taylor came around, you blah, blah, blah. And they were like, hey, look at Evelyn, Taylor. It's not about us, is it? It's about these assholes.
Oh, my gosh. I know. I don't know. I just don't really like Matt either. I'm not saying
I didn't like Matt at all.
Yeah. And it's just like, oh, I feel like this family is just terrible.
That is extremely fucked up that he's been down there for 7 years and no one has visited him.
Yeah.
Like, that's crazy. No one, like mom didn't come down. Nobody, even like, oh man, we don't want to go to, you know, Igabao. We'll meet you in Quito. We'll meet you in, you know, we'll go to Lima or anything. Like we'll freaking go to Cusco and do the Inca Trail. Like go somewhere in South America and meet your brother who lives in South America.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
It just seems crazy that nobody has been. Like I have a cousin that lives in Germany and like, yeah, her mom goes over there like every year at least. Yeah. Right? It's like, that's crazy. 7 years and nobody's been down there.
Yeah, I don't know, but it just doesn't sound like he has a good relationship with his family, which is like fine, I guess, you know, like as long as he kind of just understands what the relationship is. Yeah, I mean, part of the frustrating part is they say, well, we had a good relationship. We used to have a good relationship. And, you know, they just blame each other for fucking it up, basically. Yeah. Yeah. All right. So that was pretty much all I had for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay, so let's get right into our power rankings. So this, like we said, was only a 1-episode tell-all, which good. It kind of left it a little bit more interesting. So this is the end of the season. So instead of having our student of the week and our dunces, we do power rankings. So who is your number one?
I went with Kenny.
I went with Kenny as well. Okay, I'm going to guess your number 2 is Armando.
2 is Armando, yes.
2 is Armando for me, too. So I think the reason why I put Kenny above Armando is because a couple things. One, I feel like Kenny is sacrificing more, one of the storylines this season was the fact that he is not there for the key moments of his kids' relationships because he's the one who's in the other country for his partner. So that was one reason why Kenny kind of edged out over Armando. I felt like other things that were a little bit better than Armando was being open to all options when it came to having kids, because if Armando really wanted to have kids, he would be open to all options. But it seems like Armando wants like kids in a very specific context.
Yeah, I mean that to me is pretty much, that was my obviously they were 1 and 2. It's like, but the I need my blood children thing.
Yes, I know. I know how you feel about that too. So
that's like I can't get down with that. So yeah, so I put him below. I mean, still leaps and bounds above pretty much everybody else.
I know, sadly, right? Okay, who was your number 3?
So my number 3 was Alina.
Okay.
And I actually thought when I was doing this that I was going to have her much lower.
Yes.
But then I was like, no, everybody else had much more things. Like her biggest issue, in my opinion, was she was just too forgiving of this idiot. And so it was who she was with was her worst attribute.
So that's actually why I have Alina actually kind of a bit farther down. We can talk about it later, but definitely more of a sin to me. Number 3 I actually had was Evelyn. I thought that, she went through a lot this season. For the most part, the only thing I could really fault her on was giving Corey other chances. But at the same time, I feel like it wasn't like just freely giving him other chances. Like they went to go see a therapist, right? And so it was kind of like she acknowledges that it's a difficult road and that if it's just left to the two of them, she's still holding on to a lot of resentment. So I felt like she's trying to take the proper steps to do this right.
Okay.
And in terms of what she actually did that wasn't so great against Corey, it was mostly like, I don't know, just getting back at him with little things like trolling him with her sisters, but it's like, yeah, I personally felt Corey deserved it. So,
Sure. So my number 4 is Jenny.
Okay.
Because I don't know. Yes, she has an annoying voice and she sounds like she repeats the same stuff over and over again and she's kind of goofy. But what did she do wrong? She wanted to get married. She did what it took. Well, your parents are going to come in and live with us. I'm going to try my best. And she did. She didn't do anything wrong to get what she wanted. At the end of the day, she did get what she wanted. So okay, good for her.
Right. Jenny wasn't too far down for me. She was actually my number 5, but my number 4 I said was Biniyam. I feel like Biniyam, the worst thing that he did was all off camera. So,
yeah, that's true.
And by that, I mean, and confirmed bad things, right? Which was basically not responding to Ari, right? So turning off his phone, not answering her calls. She was freaking out on him. And, if we're to believe that he really didn't cheat, and Ari believes that at this point too,
right?
That was the worst crime he had was avoidance. And avoidance because Ari was definitely bringing the drama when she was trying to reach out to him. I appreciate that, one of the reasons why he kind of felt like he was in this situation was because, he was triggered by this whole situation of Avi and Ari leaving Ethiopia and him wondering if they'd ever return. So I think given the circumstances, he was okay.
I have him way lower. So
okay.
We'll get that. Then you said your number 5 was Jenny?
Yes, my number 5 is Jenny. I couldn't think of anything really terrible about Jenny. The reason why I put her lower than Biniyam is just because, and I think this is a theme too. A lot of my middle and, especially, getting further down, is people that are just actively choosing to be with people that they shouldn't be with. You know, and I'm not saying that Jenny shouldn't be with Sumit, but she should not have tolerated.
The people that they're actively choosing to be with are lower than them.
Oh, yes, exactly.
Yes.
But I mean, she shouldn't have stuck with him and tolerated being treated like she has with Sumit. And that to me annoyed me.
All right. So my number 5 was Evelyn.
Okay.
And that's more or less, most of the same things you said. I just knocked her down a little bit more for like the trolling and the wedding stuff. Like, the holding kind of the wedding. Oh, you're going to pay for the wedding. You're going to design everything for the wedding. And doing all that a little bit more. Not because he didn't deserve it. Not because he didn't deserve the bull dick or whatever. But but because it wasn't a productive way of dealing with the issues she was having.
Right. Okay, that was your number 5 or number 6?
That was my number 5.
Okay, what about your number 6?
My number 6 is Ari.
Okay.
Because I know she gets a lot of hate in this, but I don't know. She was kind of justified in what she was feeling. Okay, back up. There's 2 storylines for Ari. And I will back her up on the second storyline much more than the Leandro coming to visit and so that's going to knock her down a bit farther than most of the other people I said, right? Because it was like, but if it was a male friend that wasn't her ex, then I would be like, whatever, this is fine. This is not a issue that he should be worried about. The fact that it's her ex complicates it. But then how she dealt with the fallout, like going to America wasn't bad. Buying the ticket without him knowing, terrible. Like going to get the surgery wasn't terrible. And feeling some kind of way about what she was hearing. I don't know that she handled it the best she could, but I feel like she was at least justified in feeling the way she was, which I don't know that everybody else was as we move on down.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so my number 6 was Alina. And granted, her crime, I guess, if you will, is kind of the same as a lot of these, but her partner was the worst. And so it just made it more glaringly more terrible than others, right? How are you going to ignore all of these red flags that are like being waved in front of your eyeballs? And it's like, I don't understand. This guy is terrible. And how can you not see that? Your mom is telling you he's terrible. I mean, he's straight up done terrible things to you. And it's like, you just keep on like moving along towards
his
marriage.
Mom, like anybody he's been with is always just like, he's horrible. He's horrible. He's horrible. And I mean, it doesn't help that his charm is annoying to me.
Yes, I know. Right.
And so like, I'm like, I don't understand any positive attributes of this man at all. Like at all.
No. Yeah. All right. What about your number 7?
My number 7 was Ellie.
Oh, mine was too.
Because we're getting there, and that's just like, again, we have a bad choice of partner issues, but she is kind of resentful to him, and she gets drunk and has that stupid drunk fight with him about the money and they're not sending the money, and I feel like she feels like he's taking advantage of him but won't confront him about it, and is like weird about not dealing with the cheating, and then so it's just there was a lot there going on.
Right. So Ellie, and like I said, like Jenny, Alina, Ellie, my 5 through 7, we're all, kind of in that middle piece because they're choosing to be with their partners when they really shouldn't have given the circumstances. And I think what Ellie was kind of a little bit further down was Ellie had much more to lose. She gave up her life. And, to make those kinds of like decisions to like give up your business, give up all your belongings, kind of put your all into this relationship that quite frankly had question marks all over it, even from her, because she never really got to the bottom of the whole cheating thing. It's like, how are you going to, that seems like a really bad decision. What are you doing?
Yeah, for sure.
All right. My number 8 was actually Ari. So the reason why I had her a little bit further down was because I just felt like she was blowing up and getting crazy mad about like ridiculous things that just made you feel like you didn't have the complete story. And like things just escalated so quickly. Like when she left and all of a sudden, it was just like she was really mad at Biniyam. She refused to go back to Ethiopia. She refused to go to like the visa interview. She's demanding that he goes to another country. And it's just like, I don't really understand how things got so bad that you're demanding these like somewhat unreasonable things, and it's all on your terms. She's definitely, I know, they kind of talked about, oh, you're just trying to be controlling. She's like, I've had less control over you now than I did when I was there. But it's like, I feel like she's in a way, using Avi as like leverage for like getting what she wants. You know, she's not going to keep him away from him, but, you know, at the same time, she's kind of like, well, if you want to have a life with your son, you have to move to Kenya.
Yeah, I mean, yes, but I mean, when I get to Biniyam, I'll talk about that because my number eight is Sumit. Okay, so Sumit just like, I mean, at the end of the day, he did finally end up marrying her, but
yes,
he tried to get out of it as much as he possibly could until his back was against the wall.
Yeah,
he's still going around pretty much lying to everybody about everything all the time, and it's just like, I don't get it. And this is, he finally, here's your cookie. You want a cookie? You married her after 10 years? Like, whatever, man. Like, and so just, it just needs to grow a spine.
Yeah, definitely. All right. My number 9 is Corey. You know, just the whole thing with Jenny, going to meet Jenny behind Evelyn's back. Just idiocy all around. I mean, Corey is just not my favorite. He's really just dopey. And just, you know, and I think this is why Sumit, you know, was ranking lower for me is, well, first of all, I just don't like Sumit, but the whole line to keep yourself out of trouble just annoys me. Yeah. I guess that's why most people lie, but it's just like, you know, these things that shouldn't be lies. Just because you're just kind of afraid you're going to get in trouble. So you're just going to lie about it, you know? Yeah. It's just, it's so cowardly and I hate that.
Yeah. So that was your number 8 or number 9?
That was my number 9.
That was your number 9?
Yeah.
Biniyam was at number 9 for me. And I will freely admit that this is probably a dad ranking. Okay. Because like, to me, it was like, he's afraid of one thing, right? He's very triggered that she's going to take this kid and leave and go back to America. And it's like when she left and it's like, this was the unfortunate part that he was put in that situation, that it's kind of like the test to do that. He ran headlong away from it as fast as he could. What's the worst thing you can do to show you don't have interest in this kid? Well, I'm not going to contact his mom. We're not going to talk to him for months at a time. I'm not going to take care of the house. I'm going to let people in and do all kinds of stuff without telling her about it and stuff like that. It's just like, he did this whole, and you're going to tell me your kid is important to you and then act like that and not talk to him for weeks at a time and then tell me that, oh, my kid is the most important thing. And it's like, I don't believe it now. Yeah. And so that's why I said this, his behavior as a father when she left was just, I couldn't handle that. So it really, really rocked it down for me, whether he cheated or not.
Yeah. All right. Number 10 for me was Victor. I didn't like the guy, to be honest. He was a cheater. I feel like he had no redeeming qualities other than the fact that there was some sympathy because he was a victim. But when it came to things that he actively did that were good, not a whole lot.
No. I mean, I'm at the same place. So I'm left with the cheaters. That's what I got left in my bottom. And yeah, Victor's one of them. It just, he was mean. He gets drunk and mean. Yeah. Like, he's resentful that he doesn't contribute to the relationship, but doesn't really seem to be making all that much of an attempt to contribute to the relationship. And and granted, his storyline and I give him a break, and, you know, he's the best of the cheaters because we really didn't see him in anything except the most stressful time in his entire life.
Right. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, we don't really know what he's really like under normal circumstances, but we do know that he was like living with another woman. Like,
right. Yeah. Okay. My 11 was Sumit. I also do not like this guy. It's one of those things where, maybe Sumit didn't do as bad of things as, let's say, someone else on this list. But, you know, it's my power rankings. I kind of just, you know, how I gut feel about these people. And I just don't like Sumit. I find his avoidance of drama, or not even drama, just about life things, his inability to make decisions in his own life, his inability to, like, you know, have any kind of change, his inability to have, like, productive conversations with Jenny about, like, anything, really. It's just like, he's just a child. He's like a man-child.
Oh, interesting. Interesting that you say that, because my 11 is Corey. And I was literally going to say he's so goddamn childish, right?
Yeah.
Because he does kind of this. I think the thing is he does kind of the same thing, right? He lies to get out of trouble.
Yep.
I'm such a dopey dope. Blah, 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 blah. Like, can I play this like role to be like, I don't know what's going on. You have to forgive me because I'm just a big dope, right? And he just plays that childish thing like up just so he can get away with his lying bullshit where he's going away and cheating while he's technically married, saying, I thought we were on a break. You're still actually married to somebody, right? Going and doing that. It's just, but I think that's the difference is I think they're actually kind of similar people. I just don't like Corey more. When he says stuff, I'm like,
I can see
God,
that.
this guy. Ugh.
Yeah.
Whereas you do that for Sumit. And I do it for Corey.
Because I think for me, the reason why I dislike Sumit more than I dislike Corey is because Corey at least can be committed to someone, right? He's been trying to be committed to Evelyn this whole time. Now, the cheating thing was a result of, Evelyn kind of like saying, him thinking that the relationship was over, right? And so he has the inability to be alone. So he's trying to commit to someone else at warp speed, right? Yeah. And so, for me, like commitment issues really bother me. So it's like, I feel triggered by that. So, that's why Sumit is like lower down because it's like he clearly has commitment issues. Yeah,
I can see that.
So it's agreed upon that Steven is our number 12.
Universally, yes.
Right. And we spent probably the first 20 minutes of this podcast with 100 reasons why Steven truly, truly is the worst. Yeah. I think it all boils down to, for me, don't be a hypocrite. Yeah.
I mean, and don't be. I won't lie. I think he would have been the worst. Regardless, just because of the actions he took, the hypocritical things, the lying, the cheating, all that stuff. But when you add on to it that he is the most annoying person who has ever been on the show.
Yes.
And it's not even close.
Right. And speaking of man-child, he's like the biggest man-child of them all.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. Okay, so that leads me to my very, very simple life lesson for this week. Don't be a Steven. However you interpret it, don't be a Steven. Hypocrite man-child, like can't keep it in your pants. Like, come on.
Yeah. Look, I didn't want to keep it in my pants. I can accept. I couldn't keep it in my pants. I can't accept.
Right.
Like, so, and actually mine was more of a specific thing. Like, there's not a relationship between your sexual fantasies and cheating. Yeah. Like, if your sexual fantasy, if you're threesome or whatever you want to do, butt stuff, I don't know what people want to do. Whatever it is you wanted to do, if your partner doesn't want to do it, you either break up with them so you can do it or you stay with them.
Right.
Like, those are your choices. You can't do it both ways.
Yeah. Okay. So next week, it seems like we're starting a new season of, and I forget which one is it before the 90 days?
Before the 90. And you know what? The thing I am most excited about for this season, there are no repeat couples.
Yay!
Everybody is new.
I appreciate
Everybody is new.
Okay. So awesome. We get all new couples next week. So we will be back next week with Before the 90 Days.
Yep. All right. We'll see everybody then.
Okay. Until then. Okay.
Bye.